Welcome back to ClearPath Retirement Radio. I'm Stewart Smith here with Mitch Davies, and today we are talking about the retirement red zone. We're talking about that really critical 5 years prior to actually pulling the trigger and starting your retirement, and the things that you need to be focused on, and really the things that can help you tremendously as you get closer to actually retiring. And the first thing that we talked about was sequence of returns risk and how you might can address that issue. The next thing we want to talk about today is the tax window that you have and how that shrinks on you pretty quick.
It does.
There's some strategies out there that you need to be thinking through as you approach retirement, because between the years that you retire and the time that you have to take required minimum distributions, right? The money that the government says at some point, and for most of you folks out there, it's going to be age 73, where if you've enjoyed pre-tax accounts that are tax deferring until you actually pull the money, like IRAs and 401ks, at some point the government says to you, hey, look, you've enjoyed tax deferral long enough. Now you're going to have to start taking a little bit of that money every year and paying taxes on it because we're ready for our share. And that's what required minimum distributions are. So in that time period between when you actually retire, and for most people in the 60 to 65 range, and that 73 mark where you have to start taking those required minimum distributions, is a real opportune time for you to employ strategies like Roth conversions. And to talk a little bit about Roth conversions and how we kind of structure those.
Sure. So, and this kind of planning is becoming more and more important as the years go on. We're seeing later retirements. We're seeing the full retirement age, the age where you get the full retirement from your Social Security. That's continuing to push back, right? We're seeing the RMD requirement age continuing to push back. So we're seeing later retirements, and we're seeing a lot of partial retirements where maybe one spouse is continuing to work while the other one isn't on Medicare. So the point is, we're seeing a lot of later retirements and a lot of more complicated retirements. So this type of planning is more important than ever. And, the first thing we want to talk about is, again, that Roth conversion window, we like to say. Before, if you're in a situation where you can take some of that money that you've never paid taxes on, go ahead and convert it before they start making you pay taxes. You're going to have to bite the bullet, pay the taxes now. But what that's doing is setting you up for a much simpler back end of retirement. This is where the back end is where we want things to be really simple. We'll talk about this later, but at the beginning we're going to be spending the money and enjoying the time and traveling. We want the back end to be really simple. We don't want to have to deal with RMDs from all these different accounts. So if we can go ahead and convert some of that, we don't know what the tax picture is going to look like in 10, 15 years. Right. There's a lot going on in the world right now. And historically, we're at a pretty low overall tax rate if you look at the highest tax bracket we've had in this country. So considering that if we're all of the same mind that taxes don't have much room to go down, probably up, and the fact that we have to take money out of these accounts anyway, what we're doing is, and just want to put this on your radar, is to go ahead and start converting some of that. There's no limit, right? People get confused with this. There's a limit to how much you can contribute to a Roth account. You have to have earned income. But as far as taking money that you've never paid taxes on, paying the taxes and moving it over to the Roth, that's a conversion, and there's no limit. So this is a strategy we've been using in the last couple of years, probably more than ever, is implementing these types of things, and it's been huge for clients.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you, one analogy I like to use is, the best time to convert accounts is when the markets are down. So keep your eye out for, the times, and right now is probably a pretty good time. We've had some definite corrections here lately, especially in some of these tech names. Yep. But basically, if you think of it like a slinky, like the slinky you used to play with when you were a kid, think of, when the markets are down, that slinky is compressed, right? And at that time, if you were to do a conversion, you're still converting the same number of shares, they're just worth less for the moment, right?
Okay.
And then what happens in down markets? What happens typically coming after a down market?
Usually a recovery.
A recovery, right? Yeah. So if you convert while that slinky's compressed, and then when the recovery does come, you're in that no tax environment and you don't pay taxes on the growth, and that slinky expands in the tax-free market, man, that's a super win for you.
It's huge.
And then the other thing that you have to think about in this whole scenario is, with the One Big Beautiful Bill Act that passed, we've got the people over 65 have the extra $6,000 standard deduction that they can take advantage of right now, as long as you're not over income thresholds of $75,000 for a single person or $150,000 for a married couple. You're going to get that extra, $12,000 for a married couple standard deduction, which gives you even more room to consider these Roth conversions. So this is something that needs to be on your radar. You need to be thinking about this, because Roth conversions can not only save you money in the whole retirement picture, because you've got to look out again 20, 25, 30 years of retirement. It can save you money, significant money in taxes, but it can also, done correctly, it can help you avoid IRMAA, where you're going to be paying a higher, Part B premium later on as those RMDs grow. It can save you from having to pay taxes on your Social Security later on. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts here, Mitch, that these Roth conversions can impact. So, let us take a look at it. We have some really complicated software that we've had to really work hard to master here, that really models out what these Roth conversions can do and shows you all the moving parts, including IRMAA, including taxes on Social Security, including the tax savings and what it can do for you in the long term, and really definitively help you decide, does this Roth conversion strategy really make sense for me? And that's something our team can do for you, and we can sit there and model through these Roth conversions and make sure that you're doing the optimal conversion strategy, converting exactly the right amount every year to stay below certain thresholds and to not, push yourself over these thresholds to pay more taxes than you need to be on Social Security and IRMAA. We can really make sure that you're optimizing these things. And, a lot of people who have been very confused about, I just don't know if I should be doing this. They've come into us, they've sat with the team, we've structured these things and shown them, and then they can confidently go aggressively after this Roth conversion strategy and know that they're doing it the right way.
Certainly, and there's a huge difference between understanding a Roth conversion, understanding it's available. And, we've had people come sit across the table and they say, hey, I was with, so-and-so advisor prior to this. And, we took 200 out of the IRA and we converted it, right? They just throw out these almost arbitrary numbers. And, it's fine. It's probably beneficial. But there's a huge difference between just doing a Roth conversion or just doing these things and having a clear plan that we've sat there and modeled through down to the dollar to understand, okay, for the next 7 years, we're going to follow this schedule. It's going to have this tax implication. It's going to leave us in this tax bracket. We're going to pay this amount of Medicare premium. It's going to set up the kids and the grandkids to have this amount of tax-free money. Mm-hmm. This stuff is powerful. And this is the kind of planning that is so important to do. It's as you get closer to retirement and into your later retirement, more tax implications just seem to open up. That's supposed to be a time where life's getting simpler, right? Yeah. And it just gets more complicated. Yeah. When you're in your early years, there's really not much. You got your standard deduction, you have your earnings, you contribute to the accounts, but as you get older, all these things open up with Social Security, with required minimum distributions, with all this sort of Medicare. There's so many things opening up, and what it does is creates a lot of planning opportunities that aren't there in the early years. So again, like Stewart said, if you've never had a team sit there and really look at all these different things and find there's so many things you can optimize and so much money to be saved on the tax picture. If you've never had a team model through these things, I would highly recommend it. Give us a call at 864-775-5033. It could be huge for the plan.
Absolutely. And the other thing that we see is that a lot of folks who do these Roth conversion strategies correctly, they end up, as opposed to leaving, their heirs taxable money, which, we say, would you rather leave them tax-free money or a tax problem?
Yep.
Right? Because, it's great when you can leave them just pure tax-free money, right?
Great.
That doesn't impact their tax situation whatsoever. And that is just money that they can, use at will when they need to do what they need to, with no tax implications whatsoever. And a lot of times, the Roth conversion strategy is a great estate planning tool to make sure you are leaving tax-free money to your heirs. And I can tell you that, a lot of people, they highly desire making sure that is the case, that they leave their heirs in a really beautiful tax situation that way. So, yeah, like Mitch said, we have a PDF that is outlining what we're talking about today and the 5 major things that you need to be thinking about as you approach this 5-year window before retirement. If you'd like to get that PDF, and you can go to our website, ClearPathRetirement.com. It's right there on the home page. There's going to be a link that you can click to download or get, I believe it emails it to you, the PDF of that outlines the stuff we're talking about. If you think that would be helpful for you, go to ClearPathRetirement.com right there on the home page and put in a little bit of information, I think just your email address, and we will get that PDF out to you. Retirement planning isn't just about growing money. It's about using it wisely, generating income, managing taxes, planning for health care costs, protecting your legacy. At ClearPath Retirement Planning, we specialize in helping retirees and pre-retirees transition from accumulation to distribution with confidence and clarity. If you're approaching retirement and want a plan, not just opinions, discover the ClearPath difference. Visit ClearPathRetirement.com today.